So I'm back home from Maine. I'm back home from home, I was gonna say, from my trip to childhood home in Maine for an interview. Forgot my gloves in the car. Good move. Interviewed to be a farmhand, and it went really well. The owner, she was very nice. She gave a little farm tour. We took the row covers off the greenhouse veggies because it was a little bit sunny, but absolutely frigid yesterday. Oh my god. And today. She was so nice and just really like a peaceful person, just very calm, and I don't know. Good vibe all around. So as we were talking, I was like, I know it might look a little odd that I applied with a degree, and she was like, nope. I don't care at all. I saw your resume and thought, oh my god, an adult, yes. It's all a matter of different perspective and what different people are looking for. So definitely a way different experience than at the last interview, so yay. But yeah, so I followed up with my references, and she said I should hear back from her next week. We'll see. So now I kind of want to talk about something else that's kind of been on my mind. I know I keep saying like the thought of moving back home to move back in with my parents is like a hit to the pride, and yeah, it is, of course. I just feel like, oh man, I'm almost 40, moving back in with my parents. I'm like that person right now. Like, yeah, there's an element of that to it too, but when I talk about the pride aspect, that's definitely not really what I mean, because ultimately I don't give a flying hootenanny what anyone thinks about my life, my situation, or what I'm doing. Yeah, it's a little annoying, tiny bit embarrassing, but ultimately don't care. The pride that I'm talking about here is like the pride of feeling like a failure in my parents' eyes. That's what I'm talking about. I have moved home before, like I've told you guys, before I got the last job, like 2017, and it was 6 months or less. I don't remember exactly, but 6 months or less. And actually I do remember August to February. Aside from that though, I have not asked them for a penny of assistance since I was 18 years old. And there's a lot of reason why behind that. Any of the times I had ever thought about asking them for money, it was like, oh god, that was the absolute last option on earth. And I just refused. I instead turned to credit cards because I had too much pride to ask my parents for help. And all of, I guess, my 20s, that was the rough patch. And yeah, moving back home, I guess, is different than just asking for money because I didn't have enough or messed up somehow or whatever it was. It's still heavy. It still feels heavy. And that's because it would feel like defeat. It would feel like me showing to them that they were right. Like, I am a girl, so therefore I couldn't make it on my own. And so that is like where the pride comes from. So I have 3 older brothers, and I was treated very differently in multiple different ways that, like, looking back now, I see very clearly, and I really understand why I was always angry about it. And this isn't just the perceptions of an angry teenage girl, you know, remembering back to those times when like every teenager is angry at their parents. No, like they verbally told me, because I'm a girl, I either had to wait until an older age than the boys were to be able to get to do something, or I just was not allowed to do something entirely. And it was so incredibly aggravating. And so from the moment I moved out, I felt like I had this huge point to prove that just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I can't do things, and I can't make it, and I can't achieve XYZ, and just like prove all of the gender stereotype bullshit wrong. having to turn around and ask them for money felt like waving the flag of defeat and being like, you know what, you guys were right. Like, I am a girl, I couldn't handle it. And reality, that's so not the case. Obviously, and I knew that too. I've always known, like, they don't really see it that way, but it's just like how I internalized it, all of that. And it made such a big impression on me that it, in a not great way, like, childhood was heavy. It was. And even though materialistically we had everything we could have imagined a child would ever want, all the fun things, but yet emotionally very heavy. And I feel bad even, like, giving that bit of an explanation, because yeah, there's that, and like, that's one aspect of childhood. 10 out of 10, they nailed it in giving us everything that they weren't able to have as children. Like, and they said, like, we wanted to give you guys the childhood we never got to have, because they grew up with parents who did not have the extra income. So things were incredibly tight. And to be able to turn around and give your kids everything, like, that was number one priority to them, just because of the way that their childhood shaped them. So of course, 10 out of 10, like, they crushed at, parenthood in the way that they knew how, and the way that made most sense to them. And of course, with 4 kids, I understand, and 2 full-time working adults, that is survival mode. To be able to now have the adult perspective of that, and the understanding, and being able to, like, let go of some of that anger and hurt, specifically over the last year. This past year has been exponentially beneficial for my mental health. It has been so lovely, and so I've had a lot of time to work through a lot of things that I had been delaying for 20 years now. So it's, from this day, like, complete forgiveness in all of this. So please don't think I'm, like, sharing this to shit on my parents. One bit. Everyone just does the best that they can with the information, resources, and experience that they have. And there's no anger, animosity, none of that. But it does make moving home feel heavy, just because I just don't have the most lovely feelings in that place. And so going home night before last, normally it doesn't bother me when I pop in for a visit for a night or two, because I know it's a visit. So it's easy to just block it all out and it's la-di-da, whatever. But I was just like, oh, mama, that's a lot. It's just, like, just thinking about being back there full time, and I know, and I get it. I appreciate all of your guys' comments, like, sharing that you've done it recently, and it was wonderfully helpful for you and your parents, and I love that. And I know it will be amazing and wonderful, and I will definitely be happy for this time. I did miss out on all the years I was in Florida and just didn't make it home very often. So absolutely, I'm looking forward to that, and I think it's going to be great. I just, it just does come with some heaviness that I need to talk myself through the next few weeks and just say it's going to be all right, because it is. And the other benefit of having the perspective of more time is you get to learn more about your parents at childhood, so you have a much better understanding of where they're coming from and why they've did what they did, why they might have treated me a certain way. And I now know that it just 100% came from a place of wound, and, well, I was treated this way, so you can handle it too, that kind of, like, a wounded place. I have 100% forgiveness for that. There's no reason to harbor anger at all. If it honestly just makes me really sad, because I know that wounding is still there. We all walk our own path, and I'm not here to judge. I feel like after this year of really sitting with myself and working through some shit, I have vastly diminished the chip I've had on my shoulder about needing to prove some point that I can hack it and make it by myself, and whatever other toxic toxically independent bullshit attitudes I've had my whole life because of my perceived unfair mistreatment. Yeah. So I'm moving back home this time with a much better capacity to handle other personalities and keep my own boundaries up, boundaries that I've worked really friggin' hard to put up, and maybe a little bit too hard at times. So I'm trying to find the balance, but it's a learning curve, and obviously healing your past shit is not like a one-stop shop. It's a lifelong process, but the last year has been wonderful. All of that aside, it's going to be so great to save some money. From a financial perspective, it'll be really nice to eliminate 4 bills out of my life. Rent, electricity, internet, and the gym. I'm going to have to cancel the gym. I might get a new one closer. Well, there really isn't a lot of options closer to the house, but cross that bridge when we come to it. But that just leaves student loans and Netflix. So like financially, it'll be nice to stop thinking or worrying about going backwards, since we all know unemployment doesn't cover the bills. So in that aspect, it'll be amazing, and I'm incredibly grateful for having the opportunity to do that. I know not everyone does, and I don't take that for granted by any means. And I'm just gonna try and make the best of it. I'm incredibly worried about the cats and their mental health as well, because they have just lived in such a quiet environment, and it's going to be loud. I know I've talked about that, but I'd say for me, I'm worried about stifling myself and my mental health taking a backslide, because this last year has been so nice, and I find myself like singing and dancing around the apartment all the time, talking to the cats, playing with them. It's so lovely to be happy. Just feels really weird to say, but it is. And that's because I'm also feeling safe in my own home. So I guess it's that like day to day, just stifling myself around the house that's gonna, I'm just worried that's going to make me sad if I'm not just being truly myself. And for those of you, before you comment, like, just do it anyway. This, it'll be fine. They'll love you for it. No. We are not that household, okay? We do not sing and dance and things like that. No. To finally be at that happiness level for the first time in your life, the thought of maybe something that like kind of makes you have to take a step back from that is kind of scary feeling. I don't want to like give up what I've worked so hard for. Ultimately, I know it's going to be just fine and lovely, and a great chance to just hang out with them for a while, rebuild my savings and have a reset while I figure out where I'm going next and like what's the next chapter. But for now, not worrying about none of that, just trying to find a job, because I know I'm not the only one moving home lately, as you guys are telling me. A lot of us in the same boat with this economy and this horrendous job market. But I'll let you guys know how the interview shakes out, of course. But in the meantime, it's time to start selling and packing some things, so we're gonna be doing some of that too, because moving sucks, and the less the better, always. Plus going from a whole apartment down to 1 bedroom, so gotta figure out some storage as well, but one step at a time. Let's find a job first.